Niagara Falls is one of the most important locations in terms of what it represents to people of African descent because it's a border city. And as a border city, it literally represents one last step or one river for you to cross to get to freedom on the Canadian side. Well, my name is SaladinAllah. I am an educator, author, as well as a descendant of Josiah Henson, who is an Underground Railroad forerunner. A lot of my family went through the Underground Railroad and crossed over into Canada in 1830. So my family was gone out of this country for over 100 years until some of us actually returned. As a black man, I represent less than 2% of the teacher workforce in this entire country. So just by being in that space, I'm providing youth, not just children of African descent, but all children, an opportunity to have access to cultural enrichment that under other circumstances, they may never have access to. So we make sure that we teach about people within history who have done some extraordinary things. People of African descent, those who set foot here in America, there's always been a movement of resistance. So the Underground Railroad evolved from that resistance movement. And it took generations to create that network, but the network itself didn't become visible or popularized until you get into the 1800s, where now you have common people that start to realize that there's some mode of transportation that people are using and that's below the perception of everyday people. So it became coined as an Underground Railroad. Niagara Falls, as a border city, represents one last river for you to cross along that journey from the south to the north when it comes to the Underground Railroad. When you think about the Underground Railroad as a human rights movement, that was the first initiative that allowed us to have that sense of citizenry that had been historically denied us. Without that movement initially, you wouldn't see the effects of other movements such as the Civil Rights Movement, such as the Black Power Movement. Any of these other movements are just really the result of that first human rights movement, which is known as the Underground Railroad. The beautiful thing about the location where I'm literally sitting right now is that in 1856 in December, Harriet Tubman crossed over to the Canadian side across the suspension bridge. So what you're seeing behind me is a replica of that suspension bridge because it once sat right outside of our Heritage Center. Harriet Tubman was very important because not only did she help be a part of those settlements on the Canadian side, but she also returned many times into the United States in order to assist others on their journey to freedom over on the Canadian side. So all of the cultural heritage that we celebrate here in this area is a part of reinforcing our identity as a people, as well as our infinite potential to be self-determined. When you consider this country is only 245 years old, and when you look at that 245 years, from 1776 all the way up into the 1960s, there were actual laws that denied people opportunities. Those laws shifted the landscape where we live. And it also created a separation or a gap, not only social economically, but also a cultural gap. And it takes years in order to address that. So learning from the past gives us a greater insight into how these events were indicators of the type of things that we see that are going on today. And a part of my solution is to make sure that I leave this world a better place and to add more beauty to it. And then part of my way of doing that is to teach youth and to make sure that I help these children become the best that they could actually be.
Yeah, that's called lucid dreaming.
One of the most rewarding parts of my work is being able to assist children and them recognizing their infinite potential to be able to solve problems on their own so they can critically arrive at a solution. Whenever I see that, I see hope, I see confidence in a brighter and a more beautiful future. And it's difficult for a person to see that capacity if they don't see that capacity. So I think it's important for us to really look within ourselves and find out, regardless of what we do for a living or where we're at in our life, what can we do to help positively impact the lives of others? It's all of our responsibility.
Please support and share with your networks our Atlantis School Renovation Project. Through a recently acquired property here in the city of Niagara Falls, New York, we are doing renovations to establish an early childhood learning center and after-school program for youth in our city. Despite students of color representing more than half the student population in this country, Black men represent less than 2% of that teacher workforce. So as a Black educator, my voice and presence within the lives of children is critical to combating family dysfunction, juvenile delinquency, and creating an inclusive workforce that ensures that all of our nation's students receive a quality, culturally enriched education, which consists of various projects, programs, and initiatives such as this cool animation series. This is not simply my profession, it is also my passion and my purpose. We would really appreciate your support and sharing this initiative with your networks. Thank you.